Hey, Tommy from the Run Testers. In this video, I'm going to be reviewing the North Face Summit Vectiv Pro 2. Now, I don't have it in my hand at the moment because it's currently outside covered in mud, so I'm not going to be showing you it in the video, but let's dive in and see what I thought of the shoe. The North Face Summit Vectiv Pro 2 costs £225 or $250. It weighs 208 grams or 9.9 ounces for men in a size 8. The drop is 6mm and the lugs are 3.5mm. The Summit Vectiv Pro 2 takes the Pro 1 and makes a few changes to improve the ride. The most notable is a redesigned Vectiv 2.0 carbon fibre plate that now sits lower in the midsole to enhance cushioning and fit. Other changes include an updated recycled engineered mesh for improved breathability and comfort, also adding an internal debris bootie for protection, and a redesigned heel collar for better lockdown. The shoe uses the brand's Dream midsole to provide a high level of bounce, along with a rockered midsole geometry for a fluid transition. On the outsole is a healthy layer of surface control rubber for grip and to protect the midsole foam. It's a shoe designed for efficiency and speed over longer distances, taking learnings from its road counterparts to benefit those trail runners specifically focused on harder, compact trails. So the fit for me in the Vectiv Pro 2, I'm size 8 in the UK. I found it to be a very comfortable shoe. There's plenty of space in the forefoot, so it was very comfortable from the off, and there's a nice bit of padding around the ankle collar of the shoe. So I definitely stayed to my size in the shoe. I didn't have any issues at all, even when I was racing in it doing a half marathon on the first time I wore it. Absolutely fine. I would stick to my size in this shoe. So the second version of the Vectiv Pro 2 has a few changes to it. I really liked the first version of the shoe. I thought it was a really good, comfortable trail shoe designed for those lighter trails, road to trail, that sort of thing. The carbon plate in it was fairly subtle. It didn't seem like it had loads of propulsion in it, but it was a pretty good shoe if you wanted to run fast, especially for those longer efforts over those harder, compact trail surfaces where you want something that's going to give you a little bit of efficiency and feel pretty speedy on the legs. The newer version is pretty much more of the same, but they have made a few changes to the shoe. The biggest of those is the lifting of the carbon plate so that there's more midsole foam between the plate and the foot. One of the things that a lot of people said about the first version of the shoe is that it was a little bit uncomfortable because you could feel that plate and it was a little bit hard under the foot, and the shape of it just didn't make it very comfortable. So the new version, there's a bit more midsole foam covering that carbon plate, so it is a bit more comfortable and it's noticeably a bit nicer. It's also got a slightly redesigned plate geometry. I didn't really notice a massive effect of that out on the run. It still felt pretty similar to the first one to me, but it did feel more comfortable as a shoe to use on those harder surfaces. So I've used the Vectiv Pro 2 on a few different surfaces now. So I actually used it for a trail race over the downs on a very, very sunny day. It was pretty much perfect conditions for the shoe because it had really hard, compact mud across the whole half marathon distance, and the shoe just worked perfectly for that. I didn't need a great deal of grip. A lot of the surfaces were similar or quite close to road, maybe a little bit softer, and the shoe really works well for that. I can see it being a shoe that's pretty much designed for those hotter countries where the trails that you're running on are going to be harder. There's not going to be a lot of mud or anything to worry about grip, things like that. Probably the sort of trails that you're going to be running across that are in places like, I don't know, Spain, California, those sorts of things where a road style shoe does the job and you don't have to worry too much about the terrain. Once you start going onto terrain that's a little bit harder, so I went running today in it on the common, which was covered in mud. So that the shoe really isn't designed for mud. So if you're looking at this shoe as a trail shoe that you might buy for the UK winter, it's not going to work in the UK winter. The lugs on the outsole are fine on lighter trails, on road style conditions. As soon as you start getting onto that muddy, wet stuff, it's just absolute slip show. I was slipping about all over the place. It's definitely not designed for that. So if you are thinking about getting this as your one trail shoe for racing over wet ground, it's probably not going to do the job. You're probably going to need to look at getting a different trail shoe that's got a lot more traction if you're running in the same sort of terrain that us guys run on in the UK. So you're definitely not going to get it as one trail shoe. The other thing I would say about the shoe is that over those road surfaces, it does deliver quite like a road shoe. The outsole has got a good level of rubber on it for grip on those lighter trails, but it's still relatively soft. The midsole and the outsole aren't really firm like you get in some trail shoes, so it does work very well for those harder surfaces. Very comfortable. Definitely a shoe designed for those longer distance efforts as well. Maybe if we're doing ultras in a place where it's pretty much like road conditions, it's a really good shoe for that. I have enjoyed running in it. I found it very comfortable to wear, and it does feel like you can really pick up a nice consistent pace in it. As trail shoes go, I wouldn't say it's the fastest trail shoe out there. I think it's more designed for efficiency over those longer distances. If you're looking for something that you're going to use for short distance trail events, maybe you want to get something like the Merrell Matrix Skyfire, something like that, where it's really light on the feet and you can really feel that nimble ability to run really fast in it. This is more of that sort of cruising trail shoe over nice terrain, something like the Hoka Tecton X or X2, very similar to those shoes, and I definitely pick it up for those reasons. It's one of the better trail shoes with a carbon plating for that. Looking at something like the Saucony Endorphin Edge, I think the shoe is far superior to that in the way that it feels, and it just has a much nicer ride to it, especially if you're trying to get a nice consistent clip over those lighter trails. So my verdict on the Vectiv Pro 2 is that it's a solid shoe if you're looking for a very specific type of trail. So if you're a runner that spends a lot of time running on lighter trails in hotter weather or harder ground, then this is a really good option if that's your focus. If you're looking at racing, maybe doing ultras, maybe doing trail marathons where it's in a nice country or a nice weathered country, this is probably a nice option for that as well. As soon as you start looking at it as a shoe that's to be used on more tricky terrain, if you're looking at maybe doing running across the English countryside anytime other than the 1 month a year that we get nice hot weather, then it's just not going to work for you. It doesn't have the grip designed for that, and it doesn't have the level of support and protection that you want in a shoe if you're running over that sort of ground. If you're running on fields and things, it's fine, but you don't really get any benefit from that carbon plate. It just doesn't seem to have any additional benefits to having that, and the cost of the shoe sort of negates the value of it if you're running across the terrains that aren't really working for it. So it really only works if you're looking for those harder compact surfaces, rocky surfaces where you don't need to worry too much about grip on wet terrain and slippy terrain and things like that. I would put it down as being a shoe very similar now to something like the Hoka Tecton X or that Tecton X2, which I think are fantastic shoes. Really, really good for those lighter trails if you want something that delivers like a road shoe that's very comfortable. A very subtle carbon plate, so you're not really getting a pop like you get from something like the Vaporfly or the Alphafly, but it does feel like the plate is helping you just have a nice efficient ride and just really give you a flowing movement as you're just turning over and cruising along those trails. So it's a good shoe for those purposes. For the price, you're probably not going to use it for all your trails, so you're probably going to be looking at another shoe as well. And if you're a UK runner, you're going to have at least a couple more shoes because you're going to need one that can cover you for the wet and the mud and all those sorts of things. And you're probably going to need one that can deal with lighter trails and you're not wasting your expensive North Face trail shoe on just easy runs and things like that. So I do think it's a shoe that's got quite a specific purpose. If you need it for that purpose, I do think it's a very good shoe. I would still say that the Tecton X or the Tecton X2 are better. I think they're just a little bit more comfortable. I like the midsole a little bit more in those shoes. It's just a little bit softer and a little bit more enjoyable if you're really running across harder terrain. But I would definitely say it's better than something like the Saucony Endorphin Edge, which I just didn't find to be a very comfortable shoe and didn't really work for my running style. It just felt a little bit too much and wasn't. I couldn't have a nice cruise in that shoe as much as I do in this or the Tecton X2. That's it from me on this review of the North Face Summit Vectiv Pro 2. Thanks a lot for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, click that little bell. And if you're going to catch it below, you can find a link to our podcast, which comes out a couple of times each month. Thanks a lot for watching. Catch you next time.